YouTube, what's up? It's your boy Antha Barber coming back at you with another haircut tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be doing a drop crop. Stay tuned. I like to begin by brushing or combing out my client's hair. And in this particular situation, because his hair is so poofy, I'm gonna go ahead and saturate it with water just to gain a little bit more control over it. Alright, so while I have control over his hair, I'm gonna go ahead and remove some bulk. So I'm gonna come in with my WAHL number 4 guard. I do come in with the lever fully open, however I do close the lever, so I knock everything down to an even 4 closed. And my client, the haircut that he showed me, it's somewhat like a Euro cut, so it's gonna have a fade to it, but he definitely wants somewhat of a heavier weight line. And during the consultation, I asked him a few times and I showed him the weight that I was talking about that was in the photo, and he's like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I am gonna go ahead and set somewhat of like a perimeter or like a foundation right now using my comb. You can see that I'm using that comb to feed that hair, so I keep everything balanced in proportion. Again, I'm trying to keep somewhat of weight towards the end of this cut. So right where I'm setting everything in right now, that's where I'm gonna want that weight to start to build up. So I'm gonna just make sure to keep everything consistent and knock down this bulk. Alright, so I'm gonna jump straight into the shear portion of this cut, and my client asked me not to remove very much. A matter of fact, he asked that I only remove the tips. However, I felt like there was a lot of weight up there, so I decided to remove 1/2 inch. Obviously, I got him to agree to it. And sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes our clients think they know exactly what they want and the look that they're going for. And although they do know the look that they're going for, sometimes they don't know what it takes to get there. So we have to share that not only experience, but that, how do I say it? I don't want to say knowledge, but you know, you gotta share, you gotta share your knowledge behind hair with them and the reasoning for what you're doing and why you're doing. And that's why a consultation is so important, and that's why open communication with your client is key. So I'm gonna go ahead and be removing that 1/2 inch. Sorry, I know I talked a lot through this portion, and I actually sped it up because my camera kept zooming in and out, but all I'm doing is a basic cut where I'm removing 1/2 inch. And the first initial cut that I made, I went ahead and used that as a traveling guide for the whole haircut. So my client is going for that somewhat textured messy top, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of texture right here with the technique called slithering, or I know there's other terms for it, but basically what I'm doing is I'm going in with my shears about halfway closed and I'm slithering across the hair. I'm sliding across the hair, and anytime I feel like my shears are gonna get stuck, like they don't want to keep moving forward, I'm gonna go ahead and slightly open and close them, and then I'm gonna continue to slither my way down. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna remove some hair, obviously, but it's gonna give a nice little textured look. You can overdo this, so if this is your first time trying it, I would suggest you keep it in somewhat of a formation, if that makes any sense, kind of like you just saw me do. So now that I'm done with my shear work, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this blend. So I'm gonna come in with my cordless detailer LI, and I'm gonna begin to set my first guideline, which is gonna be my bald guide. So now that my bald guideline was created, I'm going to come in with my foil FX02 and I'm going to completely bald out that guide. However, when you see me get towards the top of that guideline, you will see that I use that flick out motion because I want to demonstrate a nice, clean, smooth transition from completely bald to stubble, because later that's going to help this blend pop. Alright, so now that my bald guideline has been set, I'm going to come in with my metal magic clip with the lever fully open, and I'm going to begin to set and create my next guideline. Because I want to keep everything consistent with this blend, I want to keep that drop to it, I want to keep that lowness to it, and I want to start building somewhat of that dark gradiency to transition into. So when I'm setting in my guide, you will see that I'm using that almost slight flick out motion. I'm lightly grazing. I'm making sure to use the whole blade towards the bottom where I'm cutting, but I am pulling up towards the top because I am using a fade blade. So I want to set that guide in as soft as I can so it's easy to remove later. So now that my guide was created with the lever fully open, I'm now going to close my lever as you see, and I'm going to begin to blend from the bottom of this guide right back up towards the top of this guide. And little by little, as I work my way up, you're going to see that I slightly open my lever. And every time that I do that and I continue to work my way up, my guide's going to move up with me. But that's okay because that's exactly what I'm looking for. By the time I get towards the top of this guide and my lever's fully extended, it'll be completely blended out. Alright, so now that that guide's blended out, I'm going to come in with my WAHL #1 guard with the lever fully open, and I'm going to begin to set and create my next guideline. I am going to give myself the same amount of space that I gave myself with the previous guide, that way I keep everything consistent with my blend. I did switch clippers. I'm now using a WAHL 1919, and just for my preference, anything above the lever fully open, I like to use a taper blade. So any guard work, again, anything above the lever being open, I like to use a taper blade. And anything below that, I like to use my fade blade. And anytime I use clipper over comb, I like to use a fade blade. And that, again, that's just my preference. So now that my guide was created with the lever fully open, you'll see that I now close my lever and I'll begin to blend from the bottom of that guide right back up towards the top of that guide. So I'm going to take that one closed right to underneath where I just left off with that one fully open. Alright, so my one close left some weight behind right where I'm showing you. So I'm going to come in with my WAHL half guard with the lever fully open, and I'm going to begin to attack right above that weight that I see. Again, that's right above the weight that I see, and I'm going to use that fade down process to knock that out, meaning I'm going to close my lever as needed, working my way down until that guide's completely blended out. Alright, so a lot of people have mentioned that I don't show the back of my haircut while I'm cutting it or at the end of the cut. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop this here for you guys and show you that I use the same exact steps that I just showed you on both sides to connect the back. Alright, so now that that's blended out, I'm going to come in with my WAHL 1.5 guard with the lever fully open. And just like I demonstrated to you, I am going to use that slight flick out motion. And right here towards the front, you notice that there wasn't a lot to remove. But right here towards the back, there still is bulk. So I'm going to continue to give that nice drop shape that we're creating for my client. And here's where I'm starting to build that density, that darkness that I'm looking for. And the reason why I chose to come in with the WAHL 1.5 guard with the lever open instead of the number 2 guard is because I find it really difficult if you come in with the 2 guard for your next step and then you try to connect it with the 1.5. It just doesn't make sense to me, because if I come in with my WAHL 1.5 guard with the lever open, essentially it's a 2. So this is just how I prefer to do my work. And I also noticed that that's allowing my 1 to stretch a little bit. And personally, in my opinion, that's where the magic happens in a blend, is from that bald guideline until that 1 open. So that 1.5 is actually allowing me to stretch that a little bit more, and that's a look that I'm going for. So that 1.5 close did leave a little bit of weight behind, so I dropped back down to my number 1 guard. I'm coming in with the lever open, and again, I'll use that fade down process, meaning I'll come in with my lever fully open, attacking right above the weight that I see, closing my lever as needed, working my way down until that's completely blended out. Alright, so right here I just wanted to demonstrate that what you do on one side of the head, you need to do on the other side. And right here I'm also going to show you how to connect these steps into the back. And I see a lot of barbers struggle with the back of the head, and the hair does grow a little bit different back there, and it is a little more denser, and it can tend to leave more dark spots. But if you remain consistent with your step work, you don't need to switch anything up. You just need to remain consistent. And if you remain consistent, your blends will remain consistent. And so that's all I'm doing here, is showing you that I'm using the same exact steps. And again, I'm remaining consistent. Alright, so now I'm going to come in with my WAHL number 2 guard with the lever open, and again I will use that flick out towards the top. But now I'm looking to remove the rest of the bulk that we see, and that is going to allow me to keep that darkness that I'm looking for. And so I'm going to go ahead and knock down all that bulk evenly to that 2 open, and make sure that I flick out towards the top, because that's where I want to start building that weight, is where we see that hair starting to set. And I will close my lever as needed, working out these dark spots, trying to perfect this blend before I move on to the next step. And you'll notice a lot of the times when I'm blending my client towards the back, I will shift his head to look at it from different angles. And that's because I want his blend to look nice at any angle you view it at. Alright, so if you remember right now when I set my guide in with the 1.5 fully open, I did leave some weight towards the back of the haircut. And that's the weight that I'm removing now using that 2 guard with the lever fully open. So I'll clean it up, and then I'll close my lever, trying to knock out these dark spots. And I do notice some weight still left after I use the 2 closed. So I drop down to my 1.5 guard. I'm coming in with the lever fully open, and I'm attacking right above the weight that I see. And again, I'm going to use that fade down process, so I'll close my lever as needed, working my way down until that's completely blended out. Alright, so now that my blend's really coming together, I need to start creating and building that weight on top for the look that my client's looking for, while trying to connect this blend into it at the same time. And so this is somewhat out of my comfort zone. I guess you would say it's out of my element. I'm not necessarily comfortable with leaving weight lines or building weight and leaving it in blends. It's just something that we don't do here in the United States very much. However, something that I do is get that money. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and create and give my client the look that he's looking for. And again, it is new to me, so the best way that I felt I could create that look that he was looking for was through clipper over comb. And what I'm really trying to do right here is just maintain that density and that weight line while removing some to give it somewhat of a connected look. And so now I'm going to come in with my gold skeleton FX, and I'm just going to lightly clean up his C-cup area. My client doesn't get a lineup, he doesn't get a razor finish. And right here I just feel like it gives a little bit of sharpness to the look. And so now I'm going to blow dry the hair, apply some product, style them out, and I'm going to give you that finished look. Alright, y'all, if you got anything useful out this, I ask that you smash that like button. If you're new to my channel, I suggest you stick around. It's only gonna get doper from here. I'm also gonna ask that you share this with somebody that you feel like would gain from this. I definitely feel like there's some nuggets here, definitely some nuggets on the channel, and I feel like it's time to grow. It's 2020. I don't want to be left behind, so let's push forward. I appreciate y'all. Be blessed and be a blessing. I'm out.